All right, guys, welcome back to JC Inshore, my channel. This is going to be part 5 of my skiff build there in the background. Today, pretty much, I've got a few things planned. I'm going to trim all this fiberglass, this excess fiberglass that I've got hanging off the edges. Pretty much just going to trim all that out. The plan is to fiberglass the underside of this today. I also have this big piece of wood here that I'm going to use to cut out the bulkhead that I made the template for last video. This is not the same wood that I used for the casting deck. This is actually a little bit thicker, which is cool because it's going to help me to mount the stuff. Like I said, this is where I'm going to have all my electrical things mounted. So I'll be able to mount everything without actually going completely through the wood. I'll have some shorter screws that I'll be able to mount my bus bar, my fuse panel, anything else that I might need to mount through there. Ultimately, I would have liked to cut out the speaker holes in the bulkhead before I fiberglass it, just so I don't waste the material. But unfortunately, I don't have the speakers yet to know exactly how big the holes I need to cut, so I'm just going to hold off on that for now. I'm going to take my template, go out to the boat, recheck it, make sure the template is good. I know the last video I made, there was a little bit of a gap in the bulkhead and the side of the boat, but that was just an easy fix. All I did was just tear that particular piece off and re-hot glue it into place into a better position that I wanted to. So let me grab my saw and we'll start cutting out that excess fiberglass. So I wasn't trying to get it exactly as close to the wood as I could, right up against the wood. I can always come back with the sander after the fact and make it real nice. But just peel all this excess away. We'll throw that in the trash. See if I can get these pieces. It's hard to get the corners of these pieces sometimes, so if it gives me a problem, like I said, I'll just grab the sander and make sure we sand all that excess out. But it looks like it's coming out pretty decent. I accidentally cut through my plastic a little bit, but that's all right. Probably should be wearing gloves, but it'll be all right. We'll just peel it away. Just kind of break it in the corners. It is Florida. It is extremely humid today because we have showers all around us. It was raining and drizzling a little bit earlier this morning, but fortunately it stopped. Shouldn't pick up again for a few hours, which should give me enough time to do what I need to do. So I said nothing fancy. Just get the excess off. I don't know what happened there, but it'll be all right. The main thing is it picks up off the plastic. All this extra, it's nothing to hit it with a sander. Get it nice and smooth. In the corners here, you see I had some issues. It was hard to work the cutting tool in those corners, so I just kind of did the best I could and broke off whatever I couldn't. But like I said, it's no big deal because I can go back in with the sander and sand all that stuff nice and smooth. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to get this off the table. I'm going to grab my template. I'm going to take it out to the boat, give it one more check and fit, and then we'll throw this big piece of wood up on the table and we'll get it cut out and stenciled out. So we've got our stencil here. It's kind of curled up from being outside in the weather, but you know, under my back patio in the weather, but it's pretty much the same. We've got our cutout for our through hole there. Not our through hole, but our rigging tube. I will probably have to cut a little more off the top because it is coming up a little high. But pretty much the gap is there. Also, one thing I should have mentioned last video is I've got the boat sitting up on blocks on the chines. That kind of helps to ensure that the boat's not twisted or anything like that, and make sure I actually get a true template for what the true shape of the boat is. So I'll pull this back out. We'll go set it on that wood and we'll start stenciling it and get the jigsaw and cut this bad boy out. So I'll kind of save you guys the hassle of watching me struggle to put this piece of wood up here because it is pretty heavy. But I've got my stencil or my template set up on this piece of wood. When I lined it up, I tried to line it up on this edge because I'm assuming that this edge is pretty straight. But I've also got my template overhanging just a little bit. I already know it's going to be a little bit tall. I'm kind of guessing at this point, hoping that that's going to be enough and it'll be all right. If not, we'll trim it down. We'll sand it down, whatever we got to do. But it's just simple as tracing out this template onto the board. I do want to give a shout out to Shane. Shane hooked me up with a tripod for my phone. So I actually have a decent way of setting the phone up so you guys can see what I got going on here. So shout out to Shane. Shane is also the same one that gave me the boat. So his involvement in this project is quite critical because of course without him I wouldn't have the boat. And I am in Florida. It is crazy hot right now, or more humid than anything. It's not the heat that kills you, it's the humidity. We've had showers rolling in and out all day, all week, which is why I really wasn't able to get you guys a video last week because I just got caught with the rain. And as they say, it's not the best to do fiberglass work in the rain. So And also, if you are working out in Florida outside in the sun, please stay hydrated. Heat stroke is nothing to play with. It is very serious. Please know the signs. Stay hydrated. And the words of the skiff guy, if you see water, drink water. I just wanted to point out here on these ends, this template didn't come all the way up, so I just kind of extended these up on both sides to hopefully fill that gap where we don't have the template. Let me move the marker, move the template. That's pretty much what we got. I'm going to go ahead and work on cutting this bad boy out. We'll get something propped up under this table. Somebody mentioned I should get sawhorses, and they are probably 100% right. But, you know, sawhorses cost money, and I'm trying to put all this money into the boat and do a budget build. So let's get this bad boy propped up, and we'll get her cut out. So I got it all cut out. It's pretty good for the most part. There's some areas like right here where I just couldn't get the tight turn with the skill saw, or not the skill saw, but the jigsaw. So it's not a big deal for me to come back through with the sander, sand that down. There's another couple spots over here, particularly in this corner. I'll just come back through with the sander and knock that out. That 80 grit that I've got on that sander should make light work of that. But now is the moment of truth. See how well it fits. And the trick is probably going to be how to get this bad boy in there. Let me see if I can set you guys up real quick so I can make use of both hands. There we go. See if this will work. Holy crap, boys. We got her in. I tell you, I probably had to fight this thing for like 30 minutes, sanding, trimming, sanding some more, trimming some more. Then I trimmed a little bit more with some more sanding. I tell you, I fought this thing for about 30 minutes. But she's in there. And that's all that matters. I'm honestly happy with the way I can't even think right now. My brain is so fried from fighting that thing. The rigging tube, I'm okay with the way that fits through there. I have no problems with that. The fitment is probably as best as it's going to be. Like I said, we still got some gaps, but it's all right. Nothing a little thickened epoxy or resin, because I'm not using epoxy, I'm using polyester for this project. But nothing that can't fix. So now I'm going to pull it back out. I'm going to sand both sides of it just to knock some of that crusty, dusty off of it. Put a little surface area, some grit for the resin to hold on to. I'm going to resin at least one side of this today. I'm going to resin the bottom side of the casting deck, or fiberglass rather, the bottom of the casting deck. Fiberglass this side, one side, it doesn't matter. And I'm just going to have to call it because it is way too hot out here to be fooling with this thing, especially trying to fight the rain and all that good stuff. So next time you see me, I don't know, we might be sanding. Once again, nothing fancy. We got a couple holes here, but that's no big deal. Just trying to give it some surface grit for the resin to hold on to. So we'll move back inside to my resining station, my fiberglass station, and we'll start cutting out some fiberglass for this thing. All right, so we're here. Oops. So we're here at my little fiberglass station. I've got my bulkhead set up. I'm going to cut out a piece of 1708 for the inside of the bulkhead. That will be the portion that will be inside. No one's ever going to see it unless you go in the hatch to play with electronics or get the anchor or whatever, if I even use the anchor. But as I mentioned before, this is the 1708. So this is the underside of the 1708. As you can see, it's kind of looks like chopped strand, but this is the top side. It's much more uniform. I don't know if you guys remember. If you didn't see my last videos, go check out my last videos. This is not being torn. You can't just tear this like the CSM, the chop strand. So it's got a lot more strength to it. Whenever you apply this to your material, you want to make sure that the chop strand looking side is what is going onto the material. So that way this side is what's up and what you're looking at with your eyes. Pretty much going to do the same thing. I'm going to take my marker, trace it, cut it, and we'll start laying some fiberglass on it. It is kind of starting to rain. I don't know if you can hear the rain ticking on the roof, but it's starting to rain, so I'm kind of in a rush process. Not ideal to do fiberglassing in wet conditions when it's humid outside or when it's raining, but I'm under a roof, so hopefully it won't have too much effect on what we're doing here. Take it and trace it just like we did with the template, just like we did with the chop strand mat before. Take the marker, work our way around. I do have some kind of hanging over on this side. No big deal. We'll trim it. We'll sand it when we get to that point. But I've got the rough shape. This stuff is not nearly as easy to cut out as the chop strand mat. So if you have some electric scissors or an easier way of doing this, by all means, have at it. Because after a while, your hand is going to start to cramp up. Much harder to cut than this chop strand, because you pretty much got two layers of fiberglass that you're cutting. You're cutting the chop strand and the pieces that are woven together. but it doesn't seem too bad for now. I'm also going to cut out some more chop strand for the bottom side of my casting deck. I'm going to put one layer of chop strand under the bottom of that. Also, when I get to the front side of the bulkhead, where the part that's actually going to be exposed to the weather and the parts that you'll be able to see, I'm going to put 1708 down first, and then I'm going to come back by with chop strand and put a layer of chop strand on top of that. I'm not worried about putting too many layers of fiberglass on these parts, because these parts aren't necessarily supported by the fiberglass. There's, I've got plenty of support under the deck and whatnot. That the deck itself is not going to be structural, so I'm not going to be worried about too much fiberglass. I'm just more or less worried about sealing the wood with the fiberglass from the moisture in the water. If we get to a point, well, when I do the underside, there's a crack in the keel I got to address. When I get to addressing that, I'll be using probably 3-4 layers of 1708, because that is going to be structure. There's no wood in there that's going to help it with the weight bearing issue with that. So when we get to that, we'll be doing more layers of fiberglass. But for right now, I'm more or less just trying to seal up the wood and keep it watertight, waterproof. So I'm not too worried about putting too many layers of fiberglass on these parts. I'm really hoping that I can fit both of these pieces on this table at once, so I can do them both at once, because I really don't have anywhere else to do my glass work, which makes it so more convenient if I can try to fit both of these on here today and get them done today. Put that in my little stash, and we'll see if we have enough room to do the work up here. And I'm running out of chop strand, so I might have to go back out to Willie's and grab some more chop strand mat, which is no biggie because it's right down the road. It looks like I will be able to do both at once, but I'm going to have to move this off of here for now, so I can at least give myself room to cut this piece out. Like I said, last time I did 2 on that side. I'm only going to do 1 layer of the chop strand, just enough to kind of waterproof it. And yeah, that's pretty much the end of my roll right there. Try to move this so I'm having as little waste as possible, and grab the marker back out. Whew. And cut or trace so that we can cut. Like I said, this chop strand is more or less, if you're it makes it cosmetically easier to get pretty. Doesn't have to be perfect. I know I've got some edges that are hanging off. That's all good. We can sand those down if there's too much overhang. I'm just covered in sawdust and all kinds of stuff from trying to fit that bulkhead in the bow of that boat. But, no one ever said it was going to be easy, So I'm going to get this cut out. When I come back, we'll have both pieces situated up here on the table. We'll start mixing some resin, get the roller out, get everything set up, and we'll start fiberglassing. All right, so we're going to start glassing. I got everything set up. I'm just going to shake my resin up a little bit. 8 ounces of resin, 2.5 cc's of the hardener, the MEKP, 1% ratio. And then again, on the final layer, I'm going to do the wax. The wax allows it to have that airtight seal so that the resin can properly cure. 2.5 ounces, 2.5 cc's for 8 ounces of resin. I have to look it up every time I do it because, of course, I don't do it enough to really remember it. And I always have problems getting this damn jar open, which is why I like to put it in the almond milk container. But that is not the case. Jesus. Trying to work. I'm on a limited time as usual. Got dad stuff to do. There we go. Put that right there. 8 ounces, 2.5 cc's. So if I go 12 ounces, that's, we'll say 4 cc's for 12 ounces. I'm going to be moving pretty quick here, so I'm not even going to bother putting the lid on it. And I don't even know. We're going to guess at this point. I'm not going to lie. But I'd rather put too much than not enough. That's 7. Let's say that's 9. We'll say 4 is right there. Like I said, I'm going to try to be moving pretty quick here. Got my roller all set, stirry. It's okay if it starts firing off once I get it on the wood and spread out, but I just don't want it to fire off in this cup. That is a no good situation. Scrape your sides. Make sure that hardener's all mixed in there nice and good. I'm going to start with the bulkhead. That's what I'm more worried about. Just going to pour it right on. Always pre-soak your wood, your core, whatever you're using. If you are using Kusa board, always pre-soak it. Gives it a nice something sticky to bond to, and of course the wood's going to soak up some of this resin also, which is to be expected. Just a little bit more there. And like I said, since I'm only doing 1 layer of fiberglass, I'm actually going to put wax in my next batch that I'm going to make here. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. Put that there. I did have to sand some spots on the bottom side of this board, this casting deck, because somewhere here in the corners there were some globs of resin that had kind of presented themselves. Just make sure you get everything pre-soaked. Working very quickly because I have things to do. And it honestly looks like that was just enough. I'll go kind of heavy on the top when I put the fiberglass on, just in case anything did get absorbed. But I'm going to do this a little bit differently. 12 and 4 ounces. So let me go back with my resin. 12 ounces of resin. I'm going to double up on the wax. It's not a bad thing to have too much wax, but it is a bad thing to have not enough wax. So there's my wax. This is 10 cc, so a little less than half. Maybe 4 cc's. Once again, going to be moving really quick. Going to make sure that wax is all mixed in. Stir it for a good few minutes. Like I said, you can never have too much wax, but you can have not enough wax. Put that there. Get my 1708. And just like the chop strand, this 1708 is going to turn clear. You'll be able to see right through it once it gets saturated enough, an appropriate amount. I've got the chop strand looking side down on that bulkhead. That's really important. Chop strand, it don't matter. I'm trying to do this all in one take so I can show you guys. Got that lined up perfect. Got this lined up perfect. Get my roller. And once again, I'm just going to dump this onto and we'll start rolling this in. When the fiberglass turns clear and you can see through it, you know you've got good saturation. Last time I did this, I didn't really need to use the fin roller because I had a pretty decent job with this roller here applying this resin. Which when you're doing large areas like this, the roller does make it a lot easier instead of using a brush. Because especially with this chop strand, if you go to use a brush, it'll start to just tear it apart instead of. But just use this roller to move that resin around. And this clearly was not enough. But I'm trying to work it in as much as I can. Let's go with another 12 ounces. 12 ounces. Go with about 8 cc's of the wax. Doesn't have to be exact. Then about 4 cc's of hardener. Mixy mixy. You want to be quick, but you also want to be thorough when mixing this resin. I do have a fan behind me to help with the fumes. Hopefully that'll help mitigate some of the fumes in the house. So I'm just going to put a little along the side here. Up here. Little dribble drabble wherever you feel like it's a little dry. Good thing about fiberglass is if you mess it up, you can always redo it. Just work it in. until it becomes transparent. You can see the wood grain through it. Roll it till it turns transparent. I do have some a little bit hanging over. That's all right if that doesn't get saturated, because I'm just going to cut that off anyway. I just want this all to lay down nice. Just be careful around the edges when you pick the roller up. It's wanting to pick the fiberglass up with the roller, which is not good. So I think that was good there for that. So make up one more batch for my bulkhead. So I'm going to go another 12. 12 seems to be a good number, which is just about all of the rest of my resin. So I hope all it takes is 12. About 8, 9, splash 10 cc's of the wax. Let me go grab another thing of ME Cape. Actually, it's right here, already ready, and I don't even realize it. We're gonna go about 4 cc's. That's probably about 5, but it's all right. Grab my stir stick, hardener in, and stir. Like I said, give it a good thorough stir, but you want to be quick. So I feel like I mixed it kind of hot. Definitely went more than 1%, which I try to stick with 1%, especially living in Florida in the summertime or in late summer. So here we go. Like I said, I really hope that's enough, because that's pretty much the end of my resin. The last of that can that I got, which I think this will be enough. I could just keep it on there and not sploosh it off the side. The resin's not going to saturate immediately as soon as you put it on there, so just work with it. Be patient. It'll saturate in there. Not sure what's going on there. I'll have to check that in a second. Just keep rolling it, and eventually it'll get saturated. It'll get there. There's plenty enough resin in this roller that I should have more than enough. The pieces hanging over the edges here, I'm not worried about everything. Like I said, whatever doesn't get saturated. And there's plenty of resin here. I'm pushing it around. I know you can't really see it from the angle I have the camera, but I'm pushing the resin around, and there's more coming out of the roller as I roll it. I think that's pretty good. This is actually my first time working with the 1708, so this is something new for both of us. Just putting caps on my stuff because I'll be the one to knock it all over. But once again, take the fin roller and you're just working on any bubbles, not really putting any pressure on it. If you have any excess resin, that'll move that resin around too, help get even coverage. I don't really see any bubbles. That roller does a pretty good job of working out any air bubbles. So that's pretty much it, guys. We've got it all resined up. Now we're just going to let it sit and cure overnight. And we'll leave it at that, guys. All right, this is where we're at. It's a chop strand mat. Looks good. You can see through all of it. You can see the wood grain. Like I said, these edges I'm not worried about. This is the 1708. It looks much different. There you can get a side-by-side comparison on how different it looks. This you can actually see the pattern in the fiberglass, but you can still see through it once you get proper, thorough saturation. All right. So now what we're going to do is just going to let this cure. This is going to be it for this video, guys. By all means, if you missed anything, go back and check out my previous 4 videos. If you learned something, give me a thumbs up, give me a subscribe, leave me a comment. Try to get one out every week to you guys. It's hard with the weather, Florida rain, it sucks. But like I said, if you learned something, hit that thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and we'll catch you next weekend, guys. Peace.